A PNP is a pediatric nurse practitioner.
We can diagnose, treat, prescribe, just like a doctor would, but with the touch of a nurse.
Kids A to C with the PNPs. P is for passing out.
Hi everyone, welcome to Kids A to Z with the PNPs.
Where each week we take a closer look at some of the common health problems affecting our kids.
And we're your hosts. I'm Cortney.
And I'm Dominique.
And what are we talking about today?
Today is the letter P, and that is for passing out, or otherwise known as fainting.
Yeah,
So passing out or fainting is a common complaint mostly among older children and can be really scary if witnessed or if it happens to your child. More often than not, though, it's usually a preventable, treatable, not a scary cause of symptoms.
Mm-hmm. So the medical term used for passing out is called syncope, or the feeling like you're about to pass out, feeling dizzy or lightheaded, we call pre-syncope. And syncope is a sudden and brief loss of consciousness. It's usually caused by, most commonly in kids, the most common form of syncope is called vasovagal syncope, which is caused by a sudden drop in blood pressure and increase in heart rate.
Mm-hmm. And this typically happens when you get up quickly, if you're sitting for a long period of time and then get up, if you're sick or dehydrated and haven't drank enough fluids, or it can occur in something you've seen that's bothersome, like the sight of blood.
Mm-hmm. So when I try to explain vasovagal syncope to families, it can be a little cumbersome, but bear with me here. So basically, if your child is dehydrated, dehydration is one of the main causes of vasovagal syncope. If your child is dehydrated and they are standing for a long period of time, they're not active and moving, the blood tends to kind of pool in the lower parts of the body. So think about gravity taking hold of your blood and pulling it down to your toes. And when you don't have enough water or volume in your blood to keep that blood and oxygen circulating up to the brain, everything kind of pools as well as the oxygen that your blood carries, and your brain starts to fizzle out. You lose consciousness, pass out. When you pass out, you're no longer, gravity isn't really taking hold of your blood anymore. So you lay back, your blood pressure normalizes, and you wake up. Yeah, the oxygen comes back to your brain. Mm-hmm. So two things are needed to keep that oxygen pumping up where it needs to be, to keep your brain turned on. You need blood pressure, so you need vasoconstriction, and you need volume of your blood, which is water. Okay, So long, complicated explanation, but basically the bottom line is drink water.
Drink water.
Cheers. Hey.
Typically before one passes out, there's a prodromal state, or something that happens before, a feeling. A lot of times before, you might feel like your heart is racing, you kind of lose all the color, and you feel like kind of the color drop from your face. You can feel nauseous or dizzy. Sometimes that goes away on its own if you pause and kind of get yourself steady, or it can lead to syncope. So if your child is having those feelings or they are passing out, what can we do to help them?
Yeah, so like we talked about earlier, water. Lots and lots of water, making sure that your child is adequately hydrated, and avoiding caffeine. Caffeine actually dehydrates you. It actually pulls water from your blood and can actually dehydrate you. Mm-hmm. So my note to parents, the amount of water intake for a child varies obviously based on the age and size of your child. Most of the time when we see syncope, it's in older children, adolescents, or older school-age children. So I tell parents to get one of those big 1 liter water bottles and have your child drain that water bottle at least twice in a day, maybe even more, depending on the size of your child. But a lot of kids think that they're drinking water, they're taking sips of water often, so they think they're drinking a lot of water. But if you have that tangible, physical, I need to drink this water bottle down twice. If your child's school will let them bring the water bottle to school so that they can drink water throughout the day, that's also helpful.
Another good visualization is the 2 liter of pop but imagine that water. That's
Right.
the amount of water that Courtney's talking about.
Right.
Another big thing, especially with our teenagers, is skipping meals. Mornings are busy, especially the high schools. They're starting school early. You're in a rush. You don't have an appetite, so breakfast gets missed often. So eating breakfast every day, even if it's just a bar or a quick little protein shake, smoothie, anything that you can take on the go to get some nutrients in your body throughout for the morning.
Yes, and we see syncope quite a bit at the hospital. And the story is almost always a teenager who skipped breakfast, and the event occurred around lunchtime.
Yep.
When their sugar was low, they were dehydrated, and they passed out.
Also important for our athletes, the kids that are active in school sports or active in anything, you have to be drinking more, even probably more water, and definitely not skipping meals if you've got practice after or before school.
Yes, and I know 2 to 3 liters of water is a lot, and truthfully, nobody is that thirsty. By the time your child is thirsty, it means they're already in the early stages of dehydration. So drink that water even when they're not feeling thirsty. So if your child is experiencing some of these symptoms of pre-syncope, or they are particularly prone to syncopal episodes, which some kids just are, my advice is water, like we talked about, making sure they're adequately hydrated, but also eating a salty snack. If they're starting to feel dizzy, it's not often that we give the advice to eat chips, right? But salt actually can raise your blood pressure, right? So if your child is feeling dizzy, like they're going to faint, give them some water, give them a bag of chips or a salty snack. That's going to help increase that blood pressure, that vasoconstriction, and keep the oxygen-rich blood up to the brain where it needs to be.
So when should we seek medical attention? I'd say if your child passes out, it's going to be scary, so you're probably going to reach out to your doctor or come to the emergency room. But when to definitely come in to see us if during a syncopal episode or a fainting episode your child falls and hits their head, there's any concern of trauma, you want to be evaluated.
So you should be concerned if your child passes out and is unresponsive for more than a couple of seconds. If they have a loss of their bowel or bladder while they're unresponsive, or if they're having shaking as if they're having a seizure.
Another indicator of a more serious complication, if the syncope or passing out episode happens during activity rather than at rest, like we talked about. If your child complains of chest pain with activity, or has chest pain during an event, this can be a sign of a more serious cardiac problem that would require evaluation. So again, this is why following up with your doctor, or for our student athletes, having that yearly sports physical is so important. Your doctor, during that sports physical, will screen for a more serious neurological or cardiac problem.
So if your child is having frequent episodes of passing out or feeling like they're going to pass out, they should be evaluated by their pediatrician. They may need a referral to like a pediatric cardiologist or neurologist to have that worked up a little bit further.
So as always, if you guys have any questions, comments, comment below. You can always email us at kidsa2z@dmc.org. And what are we talking about next week, Court?
So next week is the letter Q, and Q is for queasy, or tummy troubles, nervous tummies, upset tummies, all the tummy stuff next week. We'll see you then.
See ya.
Thanks for watching.